Highline Racing League goes full sail into the Lone Star State. Welcome to the virtual Texas Motor Speedway. You're watching the Westlake Royal Building Products Premier Series, and tonight a field of 21 strong are ready to take on the virtual Texas Motor Speedway. The mile-and-a-half circuit here in Fort Worth has seen many a time the trials and tribulations of stock car action, and amazing photo finish in the real-world Xfinity Series this year. So why not bring the virtual cars to the test with our second race of the campaign? Yellow flag is out as we speak. Incident with Matthew Rodriguez. We're going to take a look downstairs. You're watching live on FTN Broadcast. I'm your host, David Kreutz, commentating and producing. As it stands, a very recent incident occurring that brings out the caution, and as we take a look down on the circuit, you'll see exactly what happened here. Rodriguez, the driver of interest, as it looks like the 0-1 loose into Kendall Kerr, and he'll go spinning for the first caution of the night. Yellow flag is out as you join us here. 104 laps to go, and Matthew Rodriguez, unfortunately, this incident will send him to the tail end of the field. One more look back to ensure we saw everything that came of it. Looks like Matthew Rodriguez was running around the 11th position at the time of the wreck. Was coming with down the back straightaway Caleb Morrissey, and just brushed the wall, then went up the track with a helping hand from Kendall Kerr. So, caution is out. 104 laps remaining. Drivers are heading now down to pit road, and looks like already some early strategy calls going to be made, led by Dawson Buchanan up and in front. Buchanan still not a first-time race winner, although he has come especially close as of late. Dawson's going to come in. Kendall Kerr for Blacktop Racing with significant damage. Only 3 drivers decided to stay out this time. Corey Blevins, Terry Brooks, and Kenny Brooks, the drivers in question. Buchanan gets away. He'll be the leader off of pit road. Then you have Scott Zellner, Tyler Hampton, Scott Wheeler, Chad Winstead, and Alan Kunman, your championship leader, who finds himself the final man on the top 10 here. Let's talk championship standings, as we have just gotten things going all over again. The driver, the number 8, Alan Kunman, has been on top for the majority of the season, with 2 consecutive wins propelling him to 7 top 5s and 10 top 10s. Alan is 41 points up on the title race here compared to teammate Jimmy McKee. As a result, these 2 drivers are not as close as they used to be. Not in the slightest. They were about 20 points apart only 2 races ago. Allen has slowly but surely been able to increase that gap by about 10 points a race. And as a result, Jimmy McKee would need a wonderful event tonight. Most likely would need a victory to make himself the surefire championship contender at the forefront. Meanwhile, Alan Kunman just has to maintain exactly where he is, and he'll have no stress in getting to the checkered flag as a champion come next week. Season finale coming soon. Corey Blevins is up in front, and we've mentioned Blevins is going after what would be his first top 10 of the season. Started up front at Bristol. He disconnected rather early. Unfortunately for his sake, it meant a great race was down the drain. He had a lot of speed last week for what it's worth in Phoenix. Just couldn't quite put it together at the end of the event. However, we've seen more and more Corey Blevins has good race pace. Now it just becomes a question of getting to the end of the race with that pace in mind. Penalties were assigned as a result of last week's event, by the way. Colton Gardner is not one of those who received one. However, Connor Holden, who won the race, did end up receiving a total points penalty. So the win stood. However, what happened after the fact was the points were effectively taken away from the victory. We'll talk a little bit more about our penalty log, among other things, as we've only just begun tonight, and so far it looks like Corey Blevins maintains the race lead. Corey started in 11th tonight. Then you got Terry and Kenny Brooks, the brothers, 15th and 14th. They started. They're right now in 2nd and 3rd. Kendall Kerr, your pole sitter, is now in dead last. With that early damage, he does not look like he's going to have an easy road to recovery, if any, tonight. It's going to be very tricky to see him come back from the incident he's already experienced. Yellow flag came out for the first time tonight, just 5 laps to go, and so we'll go back racing once again with 101 laps to go on the table. Corey Blevins going to bring us to green. Terry Brooks coming with, and so is Dawson Buchanan. Green flags out once again, and it will be now Blevins defending hard, but not enough. The new tires are already up and ahead. And talk about a big move, Dawson Buchanan already has himself the race lead, and it looks like that took him only a little longer than 2 turns. He's clearly ahead now. Scott Zellner, who's in second, Tyler Hampton in third, and Corey Blevins is heading down the ladder very fast here. Texas Motor Speedway benefits from one thing that separates it from most other intermediates. For what it's worth, it's a rather wide circuit. You've got a lot of room to go up the track, got a little room to go down the track. The inside groove is most often the optimal groove, but in large part, you can go wherever you'd like. Doesn't mean it's going to be fast, but you have a lot of options around you, which means maybe you can get away with doing things a little bit differently if you're set up really well. However, I don't think these drivers have any advantage or disadvantage in setup tonight. Everyone on the iRacing fixed setup, which means drivers are the difference. Keep in mind, the big points penalties didn't only go to your race winner, but Jimmy McKee experienced something major. 15-point penalty for changing lanes prior to the start-finish line on the last restarts. Now, as a result, he's 41 points back. Previously, if he didn't take that penalty, he'd only be about 26 points behind Alan Kunman, which would be basically what he came into the night in Phoenix at exactly the same point. So the big problem for Jimmy McKee was not the way that he raced, but it was the way that he ended up getting involved with that penalty. And as a result, he is now at a net negative compared to his teammate who runs right behind him. Alan Kunman, the number 8 spot, that's where he is right now. I think as it stands, he's got himself in a position where he doesn't have to worry all too much concerning himself with making massive gains. It just comes down now with 97 laps to go, what he can do to stay right with this team. That's the difference between winning and losing the championship here. Just stay around the ballpark. 41 points is enough a buffer to carry a driver all the way home. 97 laps to go. Caleb Morrissey right now is up inside the top 5 as well. Morrissey, 1 win this season. He's got himself a couple of podiums as well, and it looks like the intermediate speed has been a surprising stronghold for the 6 campaign. Caleb has been able to count on the mile and a halves going for the most part his way, especially after Chicagoland, and now it looks like he's been making radical jumps up the board. Tonight, Caleb, he found himself starting in the 16th spot, so to get up to 6th, he's so far plus 10 on the day. Previously recorded in the 14th place, he jumped up rather quick after the start, but found himself basically stuck in place, and then the incident with Matthew Rodriguez happened. You saw Matthew get involved with the wall and Kendall Kerr. Caleb barely got through, but the difference between barely making it and not making it is quite massive, and that's why right now Caleb is inside the top 5, got past Chad Winstead too, and up next for him will be another of his teammates. The 4 horsemen have Scott Wheeler up in 4th. 0.2 of a second behind Scott Zellner. Here comes Tyler Hampton. Hampton has a little bit of an accolade on the line next week, something that I don't think most drivers are keeping track of, but I'm sure Tyler Hampton has been subconsciously. Last 2 seasons in a row, Tyler has been able to come away with the season finale victory. Now, as it stands, Speedway Racing coming up at either Michigan or Auto Club, so it's rather predictable as to how we'll be racing or where we'll be racing next week. Maybe a little bit more practice going to come in for the number 5 crew. Hampton right now is looking strong, but I'm sure he's maybe having his eyes set on season 19 already. A driver who we think slowly but surely is going to have the tools to break out. As it stands right now, he's coming up on the winningest driver in Highline Racing League history, Scott Zellner. Zellner does have something to prove with these last 2 races. Hypothetically, if he does what multiple drivers have done before and win back-to-back events, he would become the first ever 20-time winner in Highline Racing League competition. He's currently sitting at 18, so he finds himself right on the bubble to make it this year. He would need to win tonight. He would need to win next Thursday, both of which are not easy feats, but the season 16 champion has made things happen before in difficult circumstances. He finds his back against the wall, though, to complete that accolade this season. Most likely, it will go to season 19, regardless of whether or not he wins tonight, but never say never when it comes to Scott Zellner. That's something that many drivers have already learned firsthand, and I think tonight is again going to be proof of just that. 92 laps to go, becomes 91 remaining. Scott Zellner is slowly but surely, perhaps, reeling in Dawson Buchanan. We'll see whether or not that holds on as a long-term trend, but it looks like right now, Scott Zellner might have the slight advantage necessary to make a difference. He's about 5.5 tenths away. Over the last 4 laps, you'll see exactly where he's been sitting relative to Buchanan on pace. It looks like he's actually slid back a little bit. The last lap looks a little better. Buchanan might be running harder to run away temporarily. We'll see if that's a long-term gain or if it ends up a long-term loss. A lot of the field separate tonight, different from what we see at traditional mile-and-a-halves. Same size, mile-and-a-half, of course. It's mostly the same shape. It's a D-shaped tri-oval, but when you think about Texas Motor Speedway, the racing profile is substantially different. That's what brings so much criticism and scrutiny to this track. You can't really prepare for it the same way you do another mile-and-a-half. What you know from Kansas, what you know from Charlotte, Chicagoland, Kentucky, tracks of that nature, maybe even something like Texas before its repavement. That will not be at all relevant to a driver who comes to the brand new Texas Motor Speedway. Atlanta as well, before it was repaved. That's another one to note. Texas exists in 2 forms on iRacing. This is the newer of which, the older version from around 2008, is much more like the traditional mile-and-a-half. This one in some ways reflects the bottom-heavy strategy of the number 5 Tyler Hampton and the number 2 Scott Zellner. They both know the inside is preferable. Everyone knows the inside is preferable tonight, and unfortunately Texas Motor Speedway suffers from one thing. That one groove is the be-all, end-all for a driver, no matter how you slice it. So far, Dawson Buchanan's been able to keep a 4/10 of a second distance to Tyler Hampton. Scott Zellner is falling back. I mean, he fell behind Tyler Hampton right now, but it looks like Tyler is indeed making gains on the number 4. Dawson Buchanan is still not a first-time winner. He's gotten unbelievably close, though, for a rookie, and he's one of the new rookies that have a chance to be a consistent winning contender in the future. Exciting to see more drivers come in who have that status and have that ability. I think Tyler Hampton understands clearly this is another driver who could be up there fighting for the checkered flag any race on the season. Dawson, though, he knows one thing. Right now, he might just be outmatched. Hampton is coming up and coming quick. A few moments from now, you might just see a new race leader. Let's see what Tyler can do, though, with 87 laps to go. He's got a lot of time from here on out to, of course, figure out his way to victory. But first and foremost, Dawson Buchanan might be the last driver that stands in his way. Number 4 on the higher groove, taking the middle and hoping it's going to stick. Coming down through the back straightaway, Dawson has a minor advantage, but going through turns 3 and 4, watch what happens again as Tyler takes it deeper into the corner. Lunging is the way to go, and it's the key to success that Tyler will use to again jump up in front. So, Tyler Hampton now, number 5, is going to be your new race leader. Dawson Buchanan second. Third place is going to be Scott Zellner. Caleb Morrissey is a distant, albeit noticeable, 4th place. It looks like Caleb's been able to make a few moves to get up to this position. Has not been an easy fight tonight for Caleb Morrissey to get from 16th up to 4th, but it looks like, regardless of difficulty, he is there. And he's ahead of his teammate. He's ahead of defending champion Chad Winstead, Jimmy McKee, and Alan Cummins, who are first and second in the championship race. In 1990, if we want to talk about real-life comparisons, Mark Martin was docked 40 points due to a mechanical failure inspected post-race in his title fight with Dale Earnhardt. He lost that championship by under 40 points. For Jimmy McKee, the 40 that we talk about for Mark Martin might just be 15 this year. It all comes down to the next 2 races, but if Jimmy McKee can scrounge together about 25 points, you can make the fair argument that he had the stuff to win the title and was, of course, all changed by just 1 restart. Something that was definitely, yes, in Jimmy's control, but at the same time, a minor move like diving down to the inside on a restart too quickly, that's something that is a game over moment, even if, of course, you don't think it's all too major. 15 points is 15 points. And as a result, McKee is going to have to make up every point possible for a chance at the championship now. It's not out of sight, but it will be difficult. First and foremost, he's got to get ahead of the driver that you're looking at right here. And that, of course, well, it's going to be Chad Winstead. Winstead has been able to stay inside the top 6 drivers, has, of course, had experience inside the top 5. Caleb Morrissey took that away, and so far, it looks like he's going to remain ahead of Jimmy McKee as we take a look off the back end. Alan Cummin going to be further behind, but as you can see here, Jimmy McKee is right where he needs to be, putting the pressure down, looking for a spot. Chad Winstead has not budged, but I'm sure now he knows exactly what's going on with the driver of the number 48. If Jimmy McKee wants a chance to keep this title race alive, he'll make a pass. If not, well, it's not going to come down to Chad Winstead lying down easy. Caleb Morrissey, though, that might be another story. Caleb just got caught up to by the 97 of Wheeler, and as such, Scott gets away around the outside on Chad Winstead again. Going to be 2x2, and even though Caleb Morrissey falters, looks like he is together again with the pack and is not going to lose his way fully. Caleb is now going to find himself guided by the 97 more than anything else. The 4 horsemen tonight are doing a wonderful job. Jacob Hamm is in 15th, but you got Scott Zellner in 2nd now to Tyler Hampton's new race lead. Then you got Scott Wheeler in 4th, Caleb Morrissey in 6th. Now Jimmy McKee, though, might be the man who takes that spot away from Caleb Morrissey. Jimmy McKee is looking rather contentious, and it looks like he might have a chance at 6th place here to separate himself a little bit further from Alan Cunman. Alan hasn't gotten in this battle. He's more so now connected with Austin Bloom. Austin in the number 3 has been able to keep Alan honest. Meanwhile, Cunman is still watching as Caleb Morrissey and company joust amongst one another. Don't want to make any major mistakes here. 2x2. It looks like there's a lot of room for everyone, but there's only one optimal groove. So everyone's going to be fighting, almost dying to get down there. If necessary, it looks like 42, make it 43 laps in out of 120. These drivers are going to be really fighting each other and jostling for position by making physical contact. Something that has not happened yet. Nevertheless, it looks like we're in a good spot to keep it very clean. Caleb Morrissey is ahead of both Chad Winstead and Jimmy McKee for now, and that will put Morrissey back up inside the top 5. The 97 of Scott Wheeler is on looking as well, and it looks like right now, for Wheeler and company, yellow flag is out. Incident's going to be Kendall Kerr once again, and it looks like the number 88 of Jason Harris is involved, and Harris is destroyed. Caution's out for the 2nd time tonight. Jason Harris, very bad news. And Jason was dinged up to begin with. Caution is going to fly. Not because of that. He just got loose and went up inside the wall. Caution's going to fly. 44 laps in. One more replay here. That didn't give you the best of angles, but it looks like Harris just got loose. Take a look one more time here as we run it back to the start-finish line. And Jason had already gotten to the wall beforehand. As it comes through the front straightaway in the back, it looks like this time around was loose out of the corner and overcorrected up top, spinning around, and the yellow flag flies. 2nd time tonight, Jason Harris involved in this one, and the field, for the most part, is gone to pit road. Now you can see all of them except for Alan Cunman, Pazzi, Dylan Poti, the 1, 2, 3 that remain out. Meanwhile, Dawson Buchanan fights all those on pit road. Colton Gardner having some troubles making it into his stall, and so will go on the way. Caleb Morrissey trying to get moving, but it will be Scott Zellner, the winner off pit road here, and then Dawson Buchanan, Caleb Morrissey, Jimmy McKee, Tyler Hampton going to lose many positions, and he'll cycle out to 9th overall after holding the race lead. Bad news there for the number 5. Tyler's going to be the big loser in this cycle. Alan Cunman plays it interesting and decides to stay out on the track. Adam Bozzi, Dylan Poteet does more of the same. And Scott Zellner, now he's the leader off of pit road, and this is a major play for Scott. Keep in mind, racing for history, his 19th victory would be upon him if, of course, he collects the checkered flag and gets the job done tonight. Winning 2 consecutive races would mean that Zellner would not only join the likes of Alan Cunman in doing the back-to-back victories, but also would mean he'd have 20 career wins, the most of any driver in Highline Racing League history, and an accolade that he could very realistically do and win. He's won a championship finale before. He's won the championship before. The title might be out of reach, but a race or two have never been out of number 2 and his reach. Scott Zellner knows what it's about to win more than anyone else in this field. And Alan Cunman is up top again and looking to secure his 2nd championship. He'll decide to stay out on a 28-lap-plus run. It looks like he's going to be on his 2nd stint overall. Alan going to see a majority of the field now onto their 3rd. We'll see if cooler heads prevail or if cooler tires prevail as we go back at it again. iRacing official pace car is going to head down low, lap 47, restart number 2. Texas Motor Speedway providing us the opportunity not only to go intermediate racing down south, but do so with the sunlight. A lot of our 1.5-mile races have been held under the lights, and no question that's exciting, but when you think about it, it does get repetitive. Texas Motor Speedway doesn't give you that option most often. Most drivers decide to choose daylight is the best place to go. iRacing pace car ducks down and in. Adam Bozzi, Alan Cunman will control the field. 3 drivers on new rubber, rest of the field with brand new stuff. Alan Cunman's going to get going on the outside line, a significantly better jump, and the rest of the field, well, they'll have to catch up rather soon. We'll see if the new tires do the trick. While Cunman gets away, Caleb Morrissey immediately up to 2nd place. Scott Zellner going to fight with Chad Winstead furthermore. You'll see battles side by side. Dylan Poteet there with Tyler Hampton, Austin Bloom, and Tyler Snyder. But the battle for lead now is immediate. Caleb Morrissey up high, going to take the number 6 to the race lead, and the 4 horsemen will be 1st and 2nd as Cunman's decision to stay out on this old rubber interesting, and it's going to cost him many positions. His teammate Jimmy McKee coming right up on him, and this is when it becomes differences between championship contenders. Jimmy decided to go for new rubber. Alan Cunman, not so much. So Alan, at least for now, is going to fall back rapidly while Jimmy McKee gets inside the top 5, benefiting not only from having new tire, but one less competitor up in front. 5th place compared to 9th and Alan Cunman, 10th and Alan Cunman. He's going to fall outside the top 15 at this rate. And this is what we mean by taking those risks. There are some rewards that come with them, but right now it looks like reaping no benefit. Alan Cunman is in a real tricky spot now as he's going to fade back to the confines of the Brooks brothers here. There's Terry, there's Kenny, and Alan Cunman right now really does not like the spot he's in. Fading further only means he's going to lose more time and lose more position, might lose more points by the end of it than anything else. And if there's any last-ditch effort here for Jimmy McKee to win the championship, it begins with a call like that. But it ends with this race going under green for the next 70 laps, which can never be guaranteed, and in all honesty is an unrealistic prediction. Many a time we've seen a yellow flag come in at least once from this point in the race on. So even though Jimmy's got the advantage right now, it doesn't mean that McKee team is going to hang on for victory or, of course, winning the battle just because of where he is. Alan Cunman certainly has a backup plan. And it most likely relies on cautions here. He's going to decide to save his stuff and wait for more yellow flags to come out, which usually works out best when it comes to long-term racing when you know cautions are predictable. So I think Alan Cumming right here is going to play the long game and hope things fall his way. Jimmy McKee likewise could play the long game, but he's expecting things to stay exactly as they are. Green flag, clean, no interruptions, and as a result, he'll be able to get up there with the likes of Caleb Morrissey very soon. Caleb was leading just a few laps ago, now finds himself in fourth, but might be jousting once again for third if he can get around Chad Winstead. Scott Zellner's your race leader, Dawson Buchanan is second, Chad Winstead is third, and Caleb Morrissey is P4. Your overall 18-time race winner, and of course a former champion in season 16, the most successful and decorated driver in Highline Racing League history, is once again in the spot he knows best, first place. And this is when it becomes the question of how long can he last. Does Scott Zellner have the strategy to go out there and win? Most likely he does have a plan. Most likely he'll keep to it. And with the way this race is going so far, yellow flags, they've occurred, but they have not been intrusive. We've seen a few incidents, but many of which have been single file and isolated. Unfortunately, Jason Harris, as a result of his wreck, is out of the way. He retired and is now 21st and last. Jason Harris is going to be 21st. Kendall Kerr, with that damage beforehand, is still struggling in 19th, and Matthew Rodriguez is 20th after being involved in his yellow flag. The back markers are all due to being involved in an incident one way or another where contact was taken. Rest of the field, well, they've done a pretty good job of just keeping it clean. That's why most drivers are tight to one another, even if they're not in one major pack. Matt Muir gets up to the 8th. Looks like right now, Matt, one of the drivers who's moved big tonight, going from 17th up to P8, and the last to first challenge might not be impossible for some drivers, including Jacob Hamm. Jacob has gone from 21st and last on the day up to 13th. His teammates having some success up in front, battling for the race win. Right now, his teammate is in first. He's also got a teammate in fourth and in seventh. Jacob Hamm, though, has had a little bit harder tonight, and he was in the tail end of the field to begin with, but it doesn't mean he's going to end it that way, already up to the 13th spot, and maybe with more points and more passes still to make. Jacob right now is about halfway through the field, and with more than halfway of the race left to go, not a bad spot to be in if Jacob can just keep on improving and growing as the night goes on. The big question becomes whether or not all that progression is possible. Tyler Hampton right now, the 97 as well, of Scott Wheeler. Both two are coming up on Jimmy McKee. Jimmy is trying to keep every single possible spot. While Alan Cumming has fallen back in his 16th right now, McKee made the better move of staying out with new rubber. Rather than holding on with the old tire, he decided to go down a pit road and get himself settled in for a long-term run, expecting that we would stay green at the very least to open this stint. So far, McKee's prediction has proven successful. And with that being successful, he's up and ahead of Tyler Hampton and Wheeler and many drivers who have been so far cornerstone pieces of this race. Interesting to see how strategy can shift based on just one pit cycle. Not easy to make those predictions, and I think that's why it's a lot of drivers a lot of time to become good at pit stop strategy, even under yellow. When you're all coming in at a controlled speed and a controlled pace, it doesn't mean that everyone's coming in on a level playing field. Many drivers had their strategic outlook prepared in advance, some of which don't, and come in their day of, the race of, just having to figure things out, and of course watching time fly as it goes on. It doesn't mean that they're in a bad position necessarily. Drivers of course understand racing is effectively random. Things change in a moment's notice, but if you're prepared for different outcomes, it most likely gives you a chance to succeed more than the drivers around you who are not ready at all. Dawson Buchanan going to be second, Chad Winstead third, Caleb Morrissey is in fourth, and Jimmy McKee is the man in P5. Although it looks like he could see that change, Tyler Hampton is still putting down pressure more and more. Time flies, of course, when you're having fun up at the front of the field, and it looks like so far it's flown for every driver. We're up to lap 60 out of 120, and we've gotten to the 50% mark. So, drivers have to keep in mind. During a 15-lap run, we can go up to 40 laps more, comfortably anyway, before pit road has to become busy once again. Scott Zellner is going to lead. Second place is Dawson Buchanan. Chad Winstead is P3. Caleb Morris is still going to be fourth here. And this battle has been going on now for the entirety of the stint. About 15, 16 laps so far. Doesn't mean it's been a lot of time, but at the same time, there's still a lot still to prove for a driver like Caleb Morrissey. What can he do here to get inside the podium, get another top 3? He's been one of the better intermediate drivers all season, even if the rest of his season hasn't been particularly impressive. The mile and a halves are where the Channel Lock crew has come alive. It's a big difference from even last season, where we still ran with the Xfinity cars, but Caleb Morrissey is showing some signs of life unseen before, and that's kept him up in front. Jamie McKee has been able to defend very well on Tyler Hampton. Hampton has been right there, but he has not been close enough to lunge, make a pass, and drive right through. Scott Wheeler and Tyler Hampton and Corey Blevins are all going at each other as well. Blevins is on the left side right now of Scott Wheeler. You can barely see it, but Wheeler does have the advantage ever so slightly in terms of momentum. 58 laps to go. Time flying by for the driver of Scott Wheeler here. Everyone flying by, of course. Scott right now is in 7th. He's been, for the most part, in the bottom half of the top 10 all race long. Kicked this race off in 3rd. Has not been able to keep that qualifying speed. So Scott is -4 on the day and just had an internet issue. We'll see if he comes back. That might be major, as he just disconnected. The number 97 of Scott Wheeler. Internet troubles have plagued a few drivers this season. Wheeler, no stranger, and yes, he's back. Just a few seconds disconnected does not help in this fight, and so it looks like Corey Blevins now might just have the advantage. Corey went down on the inside, Scott Wheeler went up top, and now it looks like with the better positioning, Corey Blevins should have a chance to take that spot away, and that he will, diving deep through turns 3 and 4, and Scott Wheeler can't do a thing about it. As a result, he'll be there in 8th. Caleb Morrissey is going to be now P4 with Jimmy McKee coming up on him. McKee got by Hampton, and Tyler Hampton is going to have to watch as the 48 is going to make a move. Caleb Morrissey gets slotted up top. Jimmy McKee has none of it, and now with McKee making the move on Caleb Morrissey, if he secures the position, which it looks very likely he will, Jimmy McKee will be up into 4th place. Oh, contact there with the 6 of Morrissey. That'll send Caleb up the track. Morrissey does a great job of saving it, only losing 1 additional position. But Caleb Morrissey now going to be P6 as a result. Jimmy McKee is going to be in 4th. His teammate and championship rival, 12 positions back in 16th. This is exactly what Jimmy McKee needs after a 15-point penalty last week, and it looks like he might be able to remedy that solution, of course, coming in the form of a good race. And success, the best form of revenge. Didn't get involved with an incident with Alan Cumming last week. It just happens he violated restart policy. Now the best revenge for him is to prove that he can do it without making any mistakes, although Tyler Hampton just got by him. That's going to be for 4th once again. Hampton is up to P4. Jimmy McKee now down to P5, and Caleb Morrissey's coming through with Corey Blevins, Scott Wheeler, Austin Bloom, and then Matt Muir concluding the top 10. Matt tonight going to be in the number 72 paint scheme, although most often we've seen him in the number 70. He is still registered as such, but it looks like a number change coming late in the season. We'll, of course, make sure that's validated come next week once again. Matt Muir with 54 laps to go is just ahead of Austin Bloom here. The battle to round out the top 10 has been about as tricky as what we've seen in the most intense periods for the race lead. We haven't had much intensity up front for the top spot in a while, though. It looks like Scott Zellner is in control. He has a fair amount of advantage ahead of him, and of course that's the clean air, the clean track. He also has that advantage behind him, and that comes in the form of about 6.5 tenths of a second. Not a lot of time. It's enough time, however, and when you have enough, you have enough. You don't have to stretch yourself too thin, trying to burn yourself out. Instead, it's best to take that step back and just cruise. Cruise control, 69 laps in. Nice place to be in to sort of relax and figure things out on your own. Scott Zellner's got the advantage no other driver does. He's got the race lead, and he has the clean air. Chad Winstead, Tyler Hampton, Jimmy McKee, 3, 4, 5 in succession when it comes to position. They're all around each other. Corey Blevins having a wonderful night, and we've talked about Blevins getting this top 10 pace. How about top 5 pace perhaps for the driver, the 24? Blevins is a former Highline Racing League winner, last win coming in season 15 of the Bristol Motor Speedway, but ever since that point, Corey has not shown the flashes of brilliance we know that he has. As of late, though, he's gotten a little bit better consistently. His first top 10 just eluded him last week, but it looks like tonight, as he finds himself 25th in the championship, this could be the one that does not get away. He's got himself right now in a wonderful placement, of course, P6, and even if he does fall back a spot or two, he'll still be comfortably inside the top 10 by the time all is said and done. Emma Ox in the chat rooting for the 27 of Adam Bozzi. Bozzi tonight gonna find himself just a few spots back on the battle we're covering here. Talking about Adam, previously was up in front, fighting for the race lead. As it stands, that's not the case. Adam is in 19th and is going down a pit road right now, and it looks like he's going to make the call to be the first driver to go in for green flag strategy. Reminder, drivers do have to go for one final stop. For Adam, he will be good to go the rest of the way, and he'll also be the first driver to decide now is the time. So Adam's going to go in. He will be put one lap down as a result. 49 laps to go. Scott Zellner is going to see the signal, but I don't think it's going to mean much for the drivers who are currently leading this race. Zellner, Buchanan, and Winstead might have to go down to pit road in 25 laps, but going in within the next 5 or 6 does not seem to be a wise decision. Tyler Hampton's still going to be 4th here to Chad Winstead's 3rd. Hasn't quite been able to get there, although he has been rather close. Top 10 goes as follows. It'll be Scott Zellner leading, Dawson Buchanan in 2nd, and Chad Winstead then in 3rd place. You'll have Tyler Hampton 4th, Jimmy McKee in 5th, and Corey Blevins is in 6th place with Scott Wheeler 7th, Caleb Morrissey 8th, and Matt Muir P9. Blue in the top 10, Austin Bloom in the number 3, finding himself just ahead of Terry Brooks, and then 12th place in Tyler Snyder. If you're tuning in right now live on FTN, we'd like to thank our friends at iRacing.com, the world's leading virtual simulator for all sorts of motorsport. If you want to join the fun on the Highline Racing League and get a taste of the NASCAR Xfinity Series cars, the most realistic way to do so is signing up for iRacing. Visit iRacing.com/Black Friday for a 50% off discount all new memberships and 25% off all renewals. No matter who you are in the iRacing community, this discount benefits you. So don't be afraid to check out iRacing.com to register and start your sim racing career. With 46 laps to go, we're going to step aside briefly and give you a message from our friends at iRacing.com.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head to head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
44 laps remaining here for Scott Zellner, Dawson Buchanan, and Chad Winstead. Texas Motor Speedway has treated the field nicely tonight. Only 2 yellow flags and a pit stop strategy that has just begun. Kendall Kerr is going to decide to go in after 31 laps here. Interestingly, we're seeing a mix of drivers coming in for varying reasons. Kendall Kerr was only on a 30-some lap stint. Meanwhile, Adam Bozzi was on a 53-lap run, and he went in about 5 laps to go. So we're seeing drivers think it's thinking that now's the time to go in regardless of how long they've run. The differences are major, but the time they go in, the difference in that is minute. Maybe the reason more so is that we only have 43 laps to go in this race. You don't want to go on a pit road too late, because then it means that your tires will not be useful enough to burn through in enough laps. You want to have the time to use those tires. The advantage in having new rubber is using it and getting through at higher speeds. So you want a good 10 to 15 laps with a clear advantage, which means maybe drivers will come in by about the 30 lap to go marker if they subscribe to that sort of idea. But at the same time, you don't want to see the tires decay. So staying out longer with what you have might save you, because you'll go out there and not worry about losing more speed. It's a bit of a dilemma right now for the field as Matt Muir and Terry Brooks battle against one another. Caleb Morrissey has fallen further back into 8th. That moves Corey Blevins into P5 and Jimmy McKee back to 6th. So Morrissey right now maybe seeing that the spark is dying with old rubber. New tire, Caleb Morrissey is one of the top 5 quickest drivers, but in a 25-plus lap run, we haven't really seen many examples of what Caleb can do. Now, of course, starting to see the difference between when a driver has the position and has the tire and when they don't have the tire. Position is, of course, important, but even in those times where you have the ability to stay up in front with a few extra seconds, it doesn't mean that you are going to stay there. Now, tire wear, burning up the rubber is significant, and as a result, drivers are starting to pay the cost. Caleb Morrissey is one of which was starting to see some troubles, and it comes now with 40 laps to go. Not a lot of time left to hang on for someone like Caleb. Keep in mind, drivers have been on a 36-lap stint. They're coming up very close to the point of equilibrium, which means that lap number 38 for their stint, which will be lap number 83 overall, will have 38 laps to go. And still the drivers will be exactly even with how long they've gone and how long needs to be traveled from here to the end of the race. So we might see drivers come in at the point of equilibrium in which their travels previously are equal to what they have to do in the future, and that will signify it's time to go down and in. Usually in longer runs, that's more of a way to go about it, especially in a long one-stop strategy race, which could have happened tonight. We did have the length for it, but now in a little bit of a smaller form, it might be used as a predictor. Chad Winstead got up in the wall, and that will give 2 spots away. So Winstead's now going to find himself in P5. Quick replay, as you can see, Winstead going to erratically lose some positions. This is why. Winstead, it looks like just drifting up to the top side of the track, brushes up the wall ever so slightly, and that's 3 wide. Tyler Hampton gets the advantage and moves up into 3rd. While no match right now for the 18-time winner in Scott Zellner, so far it looks like certainly a match for Corey Blevins. Blevins is looking great tonight, and it looks like that is no fluke. As the laps have wound down, Corey has actually gotten closer to the front of the field, something we don't often have a chance of saying, and it looks like going from the top 5 to the top 3, Caleb Morrissey has, of course, fallen back, and in his place, maybe Corey Blevins gets the chance to be the underdog of the night. And it's a great place to be right now if you're in that number 24 car. The cockpit, of course, every driver's got one of their own. That's where you plan things out. You don't have any desk space. You can't get to writing. The only thing you can do is saw at that steering wheel, as Jimmy McKee is doing right now. Jimmy getting down into the inside again for 5th is going to put him even further ahead of Alan Kunman. Kunman runs in 19th. His teammate Jimmy McKee runs in 5th. So Jimmy is in an amazing spot now to close the gap for the title. This is what we're talking about when we say that every point matters. We didn't think that he would have a chance to really break away. It looked like Allen was on track for a good race, but now, well, Allen's in a little bit of a worse spot. He's got himself 1 lap down. He just has to muster up as many spots as he can in the next coming laps based on strategy. If he's good with strategy, maybe there's a chance for a top 15, but if not, 19th place is not what you want to settle with when there's the championship on the line. He might have to. Winstead goes in with Matt Muir and Jacob Hall alike. Meanwhile, the rest of the field decides to stay out. Tyler Hampton and Corey Blevins stay with one another. Corey is now scored in 3rd as a result of Chad Winstead going down and in. Tell you this much, Corey Blevins is a man on the mission right now to get up to the front of the field and lead the way. Although it doesn't look like that will be too likely. He's about 3 seconds off of a leader in Scott Zellner, and that's remained the same for a while here. Blevins is about as quick as Tyler Hampton is, and it is shown consistently now that Blevins is working with the tire strategy well. Even if he's falling off, as every driver is, he's doing so with a lot of control, and he's not losing any more time than he absolutely needs to. That time around, Corey Blevins a 10th.5 quicker than Tyler Hampton, and that goes to show right now Blevins is superior to that number 5, and it is not going to be a fluke based on just a lap or two. Hampton is being pulled away from, and Corey Blevins is the driver that is pulling away with 33 laps to go. That's the battle for third. Meanwhile, looks like now Caleb Morrissey goes at it with Terry Brooks. These two drivers going to be fighting each other for 8th. Morrissey, while not a championship contender, does have one race win under his belt. Terry Brooks has still yet to find victory lane this year. And while Terry's gotten close tonight, a distant top 10 might be the best thing he can settle for. To the inside, Chad Winstead goes, and mind you, Winstead is on new rubber, so see how quickly he navigates through this scenario. New tire is going to be the difference right now between, of course, getting stuck in the traffic and running right away. He is stuck to that inside groove, and this is what we mean by the new tires being so much of a difference. 2 seconds every lap. 31-second times versus 33-second times. That's the difference drivers have to think about when they go down a pit road. When you go down and in, you get that rubber, you are going to be significantly faster. No question about it. Meanwhile, if you go down in, it also costs you nearly a full lap. Gotta play it wisely here. Scott Zellner decides to go down in now after a 45-lap stint with 31 laps to go. So he's going to firmly make it the rest of the way. That's not in concern. Dawson Buchanan gets the race lead. Corey Blevins is going to be 3rd, and Tyler Hampton is in 4th. Not a lot of drivers going to go in with Scott Zellner here. Only Tyler Snyder decides to go in with. Interesting decision. As a result, we're going to see most drivers decide to stay out for the longer strategy. Undercut going to be made by the number 2. Zellner's going to lead the drivers into pit road, literally and perhaps figuratively here. Yes, Dawson Buchanan now comes in. He's going to follow Tyler Hampton and Corey Blevins. A little bit of a wiggle there for the number 4, but nothing significant. And as a result, Scott Zellner will get all the way in the number 2. Zellner right now is going to find himself 2nd of those on new rubber. Chad Winstead is now leading with 29 laps to go. 5 laps of older tire compared to Scott Zellner, who comes away about 2 seconds behind the driver in the number 1. Scott Zellner here, he's going to find himself in a great position. Not quite sure if this is the way to go, of course, because it's a good spot to be in, but Chad Winstead might be in a spot that's even better. Winstead right now finds himself as the net race leader, which means that when everyone else goes down a pit road, Winstead will be the man who's up on top of the charts. Might not look that way right now, but as it stands, he's the driver to pay attention to with the advantage in track position. Scott Zellner, of course, is trying to get there, and as he finds himself under Colton Gardner, now only one driver stands in his way. And that, of course, is going to be the number 1 of Chad Winstead. Gap is 2.7 seconds with 28 laps to go. Now it means that Scott Zellner would have to be approximately 1/10 of a second faster each lap to just barely catch up to the number 1 of Winstead here. So very likely that Chad Winstead sees some competition, but with this clean air and this track position, is it enough? In some cases, it has been. In some cases, not so much. Getting this undercut to work out for Chad Winstead is a major deal. That's exactly why Scott Zellner decided to do something very familiar and similar to the number 1. Going in earlier than most of your other competitors means you'll have more time to begin with on that new rubber to establish yourself. And since we only have 26 laps remaining, there's not going to be a lot of time for the tires to fall off and really mess themselves up. So the big beneficiary right now is the driver who decides to stay on the circuit and hope to get to the rest of the way. The big problem is, of course, whether or not Scott Zellner has. 2 drivers just went down and in. Austin Bloom and Terry Brooks, with 26 laps to go, make their way in succession. They'll do so as a pair. Now Jimmy McKee has himself the race lead, and it looks like Kenny Brooks also decides to go through the 54 up next. 3 drivers left on the way out. Jimmy McKee, interestingly, is one of which. Alan Cunman is now going to find himself in 13th, so Cunman's recovery continues, and as low as 19th today, Alan Cunman will not be denied. He's going to hope at the very least to make up a few more spots before the job is done. He looked to be all out of hope with about 50 laps to go. Fast forward 25 laps, it's not a good spot to be in, but it's better, and that improvement is a huge deal, especially since, if you think about it right now, every point and every position matters infinitely more with 2 races to go. 13th place compared to 19th is a load of positions. That's almost like finishing second compared to finishing in 8th. And that's just one of those differences you cannot afford to let go of. Scott Wheeler right now is coming up on Jimmy McKee, but this battle is only going to be temporary for the race lead. 23 laps to go this time around, and as always, with 22 laps to go next time by, we will crank it up courtesy of our friends at TrackCams22.com, providing iRacing's highest quality cameras at broadcast level. There's no other place to go for broadcasters besides Track Cams for Gourmets. So, if you're an iRacing broadcaster or user alike, visit TrackCams22.com or Facebook.com/TrackCams for additional information. Jimmy McKee decides to go down and in. Scott Wheeler brings us to the line. 22 laps to go, courtesy of our friends at TrackCams22.com. Let's crank it up in the Lone Star States. Scott Wheeler, 17 laps to go, is your overall race leader, but he's not the driver who leads this race when you talk about strategy. Scott, however, is. That's Scott Sellner. once again in front. He got by Chad Winstead, and as did Dawson Buchanan. It looks like Dawson might be on for his second consecutive podium as he just got by the number 1. Winstead right now is going to have to fend off against the number 24, and that will be, of course, Corey Blevins. Blevins looking for his first podium of the season, his first top 5 of the season, and his first top 10 of the season. They'll all come as one finish tonight. That, of course, comes if he can finish the job here. He's gotten very close, but that doesn't mean that it is official. He's gotten himself exactly where he needs to be, though, to set up the shot. And as the number 24 is going to find himself looking low, Chad Winstead going to make an unforced error and give him that extra groove. As a result, side by side down the back straightaway, the advantage is clear and the difference is 2. Blevins has the speed and he's also got the new tire. 6 laps is the difference right now. Chad Winstead is on a 19-lap-old stint. Meanwhile, for the driver, the number 24 in Corey Blevins, he's on a 13-lap-old stint. And that just means that 6 laps is exactly what a driver needs to make a pass. 6 laps and a definitive difference in pace. That's about 0.3 of a second per lap. Scott Zellner, he's about 1/10 of a second quicker. He's on older tires than Blevins, granted, but he's just been the best driver tonight, and he can work it even if the tires are a little bit older. And the advantage between the best of the best and those who have been working the tires, it's pretty clear who we know, of course, is the best in this field. Historically speaking, the victories speak for themselves, and that's why it's impressive to see that after all these seasons, Scott Zellner is still at the head of the field. Season 18, Zellner, a former champion. He only got that championship 2 seasons ago when everything clicked. We talk about a perfect season. Season 16 was a wonderful job for one driver in Scott Zellner. Ever since we introduced the Gen 4 to the Highline Racing League in its new form at our special 300-mile feature last summer, it was clear he was the driver who was going to go out there and dominate Season 16, and that he did. Zellner was able to do so by virtue not only of his strong individual performance, but the amazing team that he had behind him, which of course came in the form of the Four Horsemen Racing. When we think of the last 5 championships from Season 13 up to our most recent decided in Season 17, the team has won 3 of which, 2 with Scott Wheeler. They won Season 13 and Season 14 off the back of the 97, and Zellner won Season 16. So this team is well acclaimed. Wheeler's fallen in hard times as of recent. He currently finds himself running in the 18th place, but that doesn't mean that the Four Horsemen are down and out. They are still clearly the top team when it comes to collecting championships. Blacktop Racing has gotten themselves a championship in Season 15 and might get themselves another form of Season 18 coming very soon. It's almost a guarantee they do, but the Four Horsemen have proven time and again they have what it takes to go out there and get a title contender from thin air. Zellner's biggest weakness has not been his individual performances, it's just been his attendance, and of course a lot of things going on outside the simulator, and that's more important. But when Zellner comes back, he's as quick as ever, and it looks like he does not miss a beat. At the line, 10 laps to go for Scott Zellner, Dawson Buchanan 2 seconds behind, and Corey Blevins concludes the podium. He's 3rd place, 2 seconds back right now as the number 24. Chad Winstead is in 4th, and it looks like Tyler Hampton might be coming up on him to take away that spot and move into P4 himself. That would send Winstead back to 5th. That time by, Tyler Hampton was half a second quicker than Chad Winstead. Difference is clear once again, and tires do make the difference. Tyler Hampton on a 6-lap younger stint than the driver in the number 1. So it looks like right now, if we're talking about tire deficits, Chad Winstead is certainly at one. He decided to go for that undercut, but it looks like he made it a little bit too extreme. He had the lead for a little while there, but that was about 20 laps to go. Of course, 20 laps to go as well, ironically. And at the same time, those numbers are a little bit too long to expect a long-term undercut to pan out. An undercut that's extreme can cost you position. One that's well calculated, the difference between 5 or 6 laps is victory and falling out of the top 5 here, if, of course, Matt Muir gets up into the piece. Matt right now is in 6th, and Interestingly, Matt's on a 26-lap run, just has a lot of space in between him and the next driver, and Tyler Snyder, 1.4 seconds. Tyler doesn't look like he has enough time to get up there to Matt Muir, and Matt is also 6 seconds behind Tyler Hampton here. So interesting to see that while Matt Muir right now is definitely on old rubber and might not be playing the best strategy call, it's going to work out for a top 10 most likely, as Jimmy McKee now looks under Tyler Snyder. That will be for 7th. And even if Alan Cummin doesn't have the best of days, he still makes a major recovery because the gap between these two drivers is only 5 positions. Jimmy McKee is in 7th. Alan Cummin is in 12th. Talk about a difference, and a major one at that. Alan Cummin has been working overtime to get to this point, and now finds himself in a spot where it's not going to be an all hope lost circumstance for next week. Michigan or Auto Club, wherever we finish up the championship, it's going to be tight, and Alan Cummin is going to come in with a significant advantage by virtue of working this race overtime, getting those spots in the final moments of the race, and a 70-lap dash to the finish, all under green. 6 laps to go this time by for Scott Zellner. Six laps remaining. Zellner's going to have the advantage. Let's take a ride on board right now with that number 2 and see what's going on. And you can see there, smooth as ever, Scott Zellner is no worry about that rear view mirror. That is not his problem. What is right now is just hitting those marks, lap in, lap out. And he's done a wonderful job of that for more than 110 laps to this point. Win number 19 now on the horizon, and it only becomes a difference of some 6 miles. 4.5 when he crosses the start-finish line again. Corey Blevins right now is in 3rd, and he's got himself now right behind Dawson Buchanan. We might see a fight for P2 in the final 3 laps. Across the line again, 3 laps to go here. Corey Blevins is right up on Dawson Buchanan, taking a ride on board now at 24. It's not going to be easy. 0.3 of a second plus might not be enough for him to make it work, but he gets good runs out of the back straightaway, and it looks like Buchanan's getting real close to that wall. 3 laps to go. This is it. Dawson Buchanan going to make sure, of course, he gets ahead with 2 remaining, and the popsicle sticks will wave in the air for the number 2 team. Scott Zellner, the season 16 champion, has been waiting for this chance for quite a while. He's done it many times before, more than anyone else, as we've said countless times, but win number 19 tonight means there's still a chance to hit 20 before season 18 is over. History is due to be made, but it's really more a question of when, not if. And with tonight's victory, that will be solidified. Zellner comes across the line to make it 1 lap remaining. Scott Zellner, white flag is out, and it looks like here in Texas Motor Speedway, like so many times before, Zellner breaks away on strategy, and he is advantageous. The number 2 of Scott Zellner, he's got himself leading down the back straightaway, nobody around him. Strategy played perfect, the quickest car on the night, and coming back to the Lone Star State, Scott Zellner is looking for win number 19 as he crosses turns 3 and 4 and gets away on his own. Everything's bigger in Texas, and so is win number 19 for Scott Zellner. The checkered flag is out for the all-time winningest driver, 1 away from win number 20. Zellner does it again, and his fight for 20 wins in season 18 is still alive. Next week, a chance to make even more history as Zellner extends the all-time winningest driver record. It's Zellner's 2nd win of the season, and it propels him up to the 19th overall win of his Highline Racing League career. Dawson Buchanan finds his second consecutive podium. Corey Blevins finds the podium for the first time this year. Zellner gonna burn it down, and it looks like he's gonna move past the start-finish line and keep it going. Win number 19 for Zellner, coming here in Texas. He'll collect the checkered flag. Let's talk about your race results for tonight's event. Second place is in Dawson Buchanan's hands, and it'll be Corey Blevins then in third. Chad Winstead finishes in fourth, Tyler Hampton in fifth, and Jimmy McKee comes away in P6 tonight. Seventh place will be Tyler Snyder, and eighth will be Matt Muir, with Terry Brooks in ninth, and Austin Bloom rounding out the top 10, P10, 18-7. Further on back in the field, you'll see 11th place in Colton Gardner, 12th in Alan Cunman. Big recovery for Alan to go from as low as 20th to making it up inside of the top dozen. Kenny Brooks finishes 13th, with 14th place then being Scott Wheeler. Caleb Morrissey P15, 16th in Adam Bazzi. Kendall Kerr 17th, and 18th place Dylan Potey. 19th goes to Matthew Rodriguez, and your only two retirees go as follows. Jacob Halm, 5 laps down, is technically recorded as out of this race, and Jason Harris out after our final caution of the night. Scott Zellner, what a drive once again. 19th career victory, the all-time leader, and the fight for 20 remains alive. Shelly Babinchak, Elaine Coons, thank you for tuning in and stopping by. Let's hear from your top 3, and first and foremost, get a word from your race winner, a driver who's been waiting for this one not all too long when you really think about it, but Zellner just keeps piling on the victories, and here comes another. The fight for 20 victories is still on, and with another huge victory tonight, Scott, I believe you have a chance to still do it this season. Big victory here in Texas, quickest driver, best strategy, and everything works out. How does it feel? Victory here in the Lone Star State.
Oh, it feels really good. Texas is one of my favorite tracks on the sim. I know a lot of people hate it. There's something about 2 unique corners and having to save your tires that really just suits my style. And it feels really good to hop back in the seat and get a win. I missed the past couple weeks, and I was actually here for the Homestead race, and my wheel had an issue. So I was going to start third that race and ended up not even starting. So to come back and be able to put a performance on like this, it really, really feels good.
And talk about that performance. Well, first and foremost, tonight, a lot of green flag time. So 6th up to 1st, you were very early up there inside the top 5 fight, pulled away with strategy, and you made those gains, a lot of them under that first yellow flag period we saw with Jason Harris and company when everyone went down to pit row when that incident occurred. And it looks like you ran away from there. How important was the clean air tonight?
I definitely felt like the car drove a little bit better in clean air, but actually had 2 really solid pit stops. I know a couple of the guys in front of me missed their boxes, so kind of got a little bit of a gift there with track position. But it was a little bit of a mind meld for the strategy call. I saw Chad came in, I think it was lap like 85 or something like that, and I was really trying to stretch it to 90. And then when he was probably about like 8 seconds, maybe give or take, in front of me when he came out of pit road. So just kind of put the head down. I was really quiet over the radio tonight, and I was 100% full focused, and really glad I got a win. I felt like this was probably my best chance all season, and definitely delivered.
And delivering for the victory tonight, well, we talk about the victory numbers racking up again. Next week, going to be a familiar track in either Auto Club or Michigan. That is a certainty to finish off the championship. You might not be in title contention, but history still awaits as the chance for win number 20. Still up in the air here. So you think you're going to go at it and maybe fight for that victory?
Yeah, I'm going to give it my all. I think I'd have a better chance at Auto Club than Michigan, so going to be pulling for that, and hopefully we see some multi-groove racing. I know the competition committee set up the finale to be a track where we could probably have some multi-groove racing, and hope it puts on a good show, and I hope we can get some long green flag runs just like we did tonight, because I feel like that's where everybody's talent really shines in this league.
Bring green flag racing tonight brings you back to victory lane. Scott, of course, victory number 2 on the campaign this season. Any final comment and thoughts you'd like to give after this one?
Yeah, just want to thank my teammates as always at Four Horsemen with Scott, Caleb, and Austin. It was really fun. Glad to be a part of this race team, run with these guys even on a part-time schedule. Thanks for Adam to keeping this league afloat. Thanks to you as always for putting on the broadcast, and shout out to all my family at home watching. I know they tune in each and every week, and really glad I got this done.
Scott Zellner collecting the checkered flag here from the Texas Motor Speedway, and win number 19 at that. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, David.
Zellner on the move. Second place is a familiar face in Dawson Buchanan. Second consecutive podium finish for the driver, the number 4. Let's get a word now from your second place finish. Dawson coming through another top 3 run and showing great speed as of late. Another finish, I'm sure, of course, a good one to be proud of, but just a few seconds off of what could have been your first victory. So, Dawson, how you feeling?
I feel great. I think that I had a strong car there at the start of the race, and then when Scott got up there and I got out front, he was lights out. But I could have done a better job saving. But I mean, overall, getting that second place finish was huge, and it's definitely a confidence booster.
And talking about, of course, going back to the podium here tonight, it looks like tonight, of course, you had the good start with qualifying to begin with, second place to second, so maybe didn't have to work to get up to that position, but you had to work to stay there. And of course, it's easier said than done keeping it in such a high position. We saw mostly green flag racing though, and it looked like you worked your tires pretty well.
Yeah, I did a decent job at that first run, saving the tires, and then second run, I don't know what I did differently, but it just destroyed the tires, and so I tried to tone it back that third and the last run there, and it was better, but it just wasn't quite good enough. But yeah, I mean, saving the tires was the key of the night.
And looks like saving your tires got you up there, able to make that run and defend against Corey Blevins to keep it inside the podium. You're looking strong as of late, of course. Podium after podium, racking up just before the championship. And the season, of course, comes to an end here. So one last race, one last chance. A 2-mile track, either Auto Club or Michigan here. How are you feeling about your chances to maybe keep the good times rolling with our final event of the season?
I feel really good. It's those Auto Club and Michigan is you can run just about anywhere, so it's gonna make for a lot of close racing, and it could be anybody's game, but hopefully I'm just one of the lucky ones up there racing for the win.
So maybe a chance to go at it once again. Dawson Buchanan, second on the night here in Texas. Any final comments you'd like to give? The floor is yours.
Yeah, I want to say thank you to my eyes in the sky, Lane Snow, for getting out there and making all the good calls at night and getting me through everything. And thank you to everybody watching and everybody that makes the league, run every weekend, every Thursday. It's definitely a joy.
That being said, second place, Dawson Buchanan, back-to-back podium finishes, and this time getting it done for P2. Thank you for your time again.
Yeah, thank you.
And a little bit of a different story for the driver who finishes third tonight. We've been seeing flashes and slowly but surely seeing that pace improve. But tonight, for Corey Blevins, first podium of the year. And at that best finish of the season, third place, and your speed, it only looked like you got stronger and stronger until the end of the night came. 11th up to third, hard charger at that. It looks like a lot of big accolades to describe this night as you get up inside third.
Yeah, it was a really good run. I'm really proud of that. That's honestly where I feel like I should be running, but it's been a season of disappointment. Best finish I had before tonight was 13th, so that's a really big improvement. I feel like when it was Texas was chosen, and I was like, well, that's a pretty good opportunity for me. It's a good track for me, so I was feeling pretty good about it.
And a little bit different than some of the other intermediates we've gone to before. Although, to say one thing, we've seen a little bit more of that pace coming out of the 24. You were running up inside of the top 10 last week in Phoenix, and it looks like tonight, all that pace. First off, it was shown to begin with, qualifying just within the top 10 range, and then making moves up as the race went on. Looked like he even got stronger on the final 20-some lap stint. Something about the tires or the track click to get you there?
Yeah, it's I thought I might have enough for Zellner there, but he was running pretty similar speeds, so it was going to be really hard to get up there and run with him unless we got another yellow. I think I was like 17th or 18th back during that first yellow. I had stayed out and tried to save a set of tires, and turns out really didn't even need to do that. I drove right back up to the front. So yeah, it was pretty interesting for sure.
Well, it looks like you're able to just make it all work out to the tail end. Third place here. One last chance, though. One last race. Best finish of the season, so maybe some good momentum to bring into next year. But of course, we still got a race ahead of us in just a Thursday's time. It's a 2-mile track. We've seen you at times getting up there before in the mix, but now it's all about finishing the job and going for a top 10 or beyond.
Yeah, 2-mile tracks are pretty good to me usually, so I'm looking forward to that for sure.
And of course, one last chance coming up. Corey Blevins, third place of the night here in Texas. Any final comments you'd like to give out?
Just thank you for the broadcast. I appreciate it, and try to get him next week.
So, number 24 team, third place on the night and getting right into the podium battle till the very end. Corey, thank you again for stopping by.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Blevins on the move, the final driver of the top three that we've spoken to tonight. It'll be Corey Blevins, who finishes in third, Dawson Buchanan, who comes away with second, and Scott Zellner winning his 19th career race and his second of the season. Massive accolade for the number 2 team, who continue to push the limit for victory in this series and have done so for many, many seasons. And they did it again. Alan Cummin and Jimmy McKee. It's official. They are your top 2 championship contenders. They're the ones you'll have to watch next week when we go racing one final time to decide the championship in the Highline Racing League. As, of course, the night comes to a close, you've been watching for the virtual Texas Motor Speedway, a 150-mile feature, and it all came down to a long green flag run, which is great to see. Next week finishes up the campaign with Speedway Racing. It's either Auto Club or Michigan. Stay tuned for the results. We'll announce them, of course, in the Iora Cup Series broadcast, and you'll find out where we're going racing for our final event in the Westlake Royal Building Products 18th season premiere series. You've been watching the Highline Racing League exclusively on FTN. I've been your host, David Kreutz, commentating and producing. If you enjoyed, make sure to leave a like on the stream and subscribe to the channel. Your support is always greatly appreciated. Once again, thank you all for tuning in. If you enjoyed, leave a like on the stream and subscribe. And if you'd like to get involved with the FTN community, scan the QR code on your screen, or you can check out the links in our description and you can join the FTN Discord. Our official community membership is free in our Discord, so we'd love to have you stop by, tune in, check out what's going on, and we'd love to hear from you all throughout the year. Once again, you've been watching for the virtual Texas Motor Speedway. Congratulations to Scott Zellner on his victory. We hope you have a fantastic night.